You guys have got to see this.
Like really excited by these. I think they're really cool, man.
I'm excited too. And, you know, taking that feedback, customers say, and how can we modernize this and make it a little more pocket friendly? Put a deep carry pocket clip on it.
Great marketing decision, pocket clip. Good idea. I hope Buck pardons my levity here. Imagine my surprise when a couple weeks ago I got an email from Buck asking me to review their new production versions of Buck 110 and Buck 112. If you don't know them, welcome to Earth. Our species is called Homo sapiens and we've been around for about 50,000 years. It took us first 40,000 years to develop this knife, then the next 5,000 years to develop this knife, and finally all of that culminated in this knife in what we call 20th century. After that and anything in between were just variations and unnecessary luxuries. Nail nick opening, lock back, two-hand opening and closing. So what's new with Buck 110 and its counterpart 112? Top row from left to right, 112 Slim Heritage Elite Nickel Silver, 110 Slim Heritage Elite Brass, and the older knives on the bottom are 112 Slim Select and a classic Buck 110. What's interesting, the thickness of the classic Buck 110 is roughly the same as the thickness of this knife, including the pocket clip. They did not deviate, as you can see, from how the blades are constructed, except for the life of me, I don't understand why did they not introduce some kind of thumb opening device. I think it's because they're targeting foreign markets, and in some countries, such as Germany, you cannot have a locking blade and a single hand opening blade at the same time. You can have either or, locking or single hand. Or perhaps they're concerned when the knife is used for hunting purposes, the thumb studs can actually get stuck while processing the game. There are a number of other features they could have used for thumb opening, like fuller or recess or elongated hole that does not resemble circle that Spyderco puts on. There are options, but they chose nail nick. These classic beauties are constructed using 420C steel that has been treated to the world famous BOS or Boss protocol. Boss is a sister company of Buck, or at least they started out as such, and now they're part of Buck, and they were specializing in stainless steel heat treats. Nowadays, this new model is hitting the market with a MagnaCut blade. Now, I spoke with Tony from Buck, and he assured me that the protocol for heat treating these production blades was developed by BOS or Boss. There was a custom or collection series knife that they did with Dr. Larry Thomas, who developed a protocol for it, but it was not replicated exactly on their production series knives. All classic Buck knives come in 420C, and believe me when I say that the consistency will blow your mind as far as hardness goes. I always get 57.7 to 58 HRC. But to my best recollection, I have only tested their fixed blades to date. Maybe today we'll break that mold and do something else. It is a classic construction indeed, not a single screw, except for the pocket clip screws. It's all on pins, and the handle is constructed of a solid, continuous piece of brass from bolster to bolster, overlaid with ebony wood. Another deviation from the classic lineup, now that they have a pocket clip, there's, at least in their mind, no need for a carrying case. These were made in Mexico, not in the United States, so really no foul, no harm. But I kind of gonna miss it. Let's talk about the weight. This is a classic American knife, so I'm only gonna weigh it in ounces. Just kidding. 6.6 ounces, and the slim version is 4.5 ounces. So 1.5 ounce loss. That's significant. And on the slim 112, it's yet almost another ounce off as well. Of course, the light was a lot lighter, half the weight. All right. For friends of America across the globe, I'll do the grams. 206. The slim version is 155. That's a significant decrease. It's like a shot of vodka, 50 some grams. And 129.5 on the 112. Now I'll throw this one in, why not? 71 gram, 72. You see, I cover all the bases, so now you have to hit a like button. I guess you don't know what covering all the bases means if you're in Europe. Next, I'm using my handy dandy Amazon purchased microscope to look at the grind, starting with the tip as usual. And while the tip is formed pretty well here, definite 7 out of 10, maybe even 8, the blade doesn't appear to have been stropped at the factory. No honing or stropping evidence on this blade. This is the 110, the larger. And as you can see, it's a little toothy. It definitely could use a little honing and stropping. But the apex is formed pretty well. You can see it right here. The line is almost invisible. My theory, it's mostly burr that forms that invisible break line at the apex. Here's the 112 with its very well formed tip. Also some toothiness. You can see little gaps here and there. And that is even more evidence that what you get out of the box is basically apex with burr still attached to it. Now, the knives in the past, this series of knives, were reasonably priced. In today's price lineup for these MagnaCut blades, maybe not so much, and I would expect a little bit better out the box. So note to Bach. And here how they are performing on my customary paper towel test. This is a very hard thing for a knife to do, breaking through this fibery edge and then continuing a cut rather than tearing the paper. And to be honest with you, that burr on apex is doing an okay job. Definitely give it maybe an 8 out of 10 for breaking in and actually trying to follow through. It's a little better on the 110 slim than on the 112, but it's still doing the job. So the problem with leaving burr on the apex is when you actually start cutting something hard, you will be tearing the burr off and damaging the apex. So I'm using this handy dandy Wurkkos foldable sharpener, which is my absolute favorite tool that company makes. And I modified it with this leather strop. So I'm going to try to strop off some of that burr, starting with a 112. I am using a compound on it, and I'll show you what it is. By the way, all the tools that I'm using in this video today will be linked to Amazon in the description, and every time you use my links, it helps my channel to procure more tools and more knives for our reviews here. It's very rare that I accept free knives from companies. I only work with absolutely reputable companies. Bach is one of them. Rimet and Vastid are others. And I am not taking any other knives for review at this time. So you can see that I am not doing anything earth-shaking, just stropping it a little bit. And here's the TechDiamondTools paste. I'm using 3000 grit paste, and I found that because I carry this strop in my pocket along with the folding sharpener, it's, by the way, one of the best tools. I kid you not, guys. Anyway, so that paste goes on dry and it does not mess up my pants. It basically stays right there, and the pocket clip is on the opposite side, so it kind of rubs against the inside of my pocket. You can see the improvement here. We're definitely lifting it up to 9 out of 10. A lot easier to get in. And I didn't even hone this blade. Let's do the paper towel roll test. try all these tests at home if you don't believe me how hard they are to do. This passed it with flying colors on both accounts. So let's unleash the superpower of this folding sharpener. By the way, it has a 400 grit and a ceramic, I estimate 1600 grit or so. And I am honing now this blade to make it absolutely not shaving sharp, but hair splitting sharp. That's how I roll. And when I do that, I like to mark the blade with a Sharpie to see where I'm hitting. So here I'm trying to create a tertiary bevel, or micro bevel if you wish, because you saw on the microscope video segment that there's a little bit of a convexity from grinding these edges on the belt. So once it's convex, creating a micro bevel doesn't hurt anything. It doesn't reduce sliciness. It's already sort of at a much more obtuse angle at the very apex, if you know what I mean. If you have any questions about that, don't hesitate to ask. I reply to a lot, predominant majority of your comments. The best way to get me not to reply to your comment is use bad language, or sort of being a narcissist, or, I don't know, just being mean to my other viewers. That sometimes gets you banned from the channel, and you won't even know it. So if you use poor language or just being super annoying, you will think that you're leaving comments. You will not know the difference, but they're just not going to be visible to anybody but yourself. So enjoy your own company. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm applying medium pressure, and I am trying to make sure that I'm not hitting the entire plane of the secondary bevel. I'm just creating a micro bevel at the apex. And you know, I shouldn't be getting any burr, but I am getting burr, which confirms my theory that some burr was left after belt sanding. And now I'm on the leather, and the leather gives me telltale signs whether or not my honing went successful, because if you don't see striations on the leather, that means you remove the striations from the apex, and that's the goal. Here you go. Let's give it a shot. Let's see. Oh, hang on. Yeah. You know, there's nothing that compares to this feeling where it just gets through material and continues cutting it without any physical effort on your part. It just keeps on going like this, just breaking through fibers, through these corrugations. It's just an amazing feeling. That's why I carry these pocket sharpeners. If you only knew, if I could have $10 for every time I use it to help the edge on my coworker's knife, I'd be a rich man. And look at the quality of the cut. That convex grind or hollow grind of the blade definitely helps. You can see now what it looks like after my efforts. It's not perfect yet. It's definitely not 10 out of 10, but it's getting there. And if I actually resharpened it entirely, so in other words, if I reshape the entire secondary bevel, I'd probably get this MagnaCut to an absolute nuts, crazy performance. I am satisfied with field sharpening that I performed. Here's the 112. Remember, I didn't hone this one, I just stropped it. And that paste did a little bit of honing as well. You can see it still could use actual ceramic plate, just like I did on a 110. Now let's talk about edge geometry. I already mentioned it's a convex grind, so it gives you ideal sliciness per behind the edge thickness. And on this knife, we're like a little bit over 20,000th of an inch thickness along the entire edge, which means it's not the sliciest thing out there. I've definitely seen thinner, as thin as 13,000ths of an inch. Let's check the 112 slim. Yeah, this one is a little thinner. As you know, it's done by hand at box, so variations can exist, and in millimeters it's just over 0.5 millimeter thick behind the edge. This segment is worth watching. Take it from my future self, because I discovered some very good surprises. As always, before I do any hardness test on this channel, I validate the calibration of my Rockwell tester using this right there independently certified calibrated 62 HRC calibration block, and we'll see how it does. I'm reading 62 spot on. So because I can't disassemble these bucks and I don't want to put too many pokes, I'm just going to poke it once right on the near the spine of the blade and see what it does. What? I got 63.5 HRC. 63.5. Right there, there's your poke. Wow. You know, to be honest with you, I don't know why am I surprised, because I tested their crossbar lock they recently introduced into the market at the end of 2025. And it was right there above 63, if I recall correctly. I'll throw that information in a link of to the video where I tested it. But I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this buck right here. And I poked it around the same spot. Wow. All right, let's see. That's pretty amazing hardness for MagnaCut, because at between 62.5 and 64, maybe even 65 HRC, that steel really shines. Yeah, I got 63.2, a little bit less on this blade, but still an excellent value or excellent measurement. I'm trying to think. Just for comparison, this is that's their 420 blade, and as I mentioned earlier, every time I measure a buck in that steel, I get consistently right around 57 HRC, which is also top-notch heat treat for 420. So just out of pure curiosity, since we're not really testing this knife, but we're testing this knife, if you know what I mean, I wanna see if it's right there where I think it is. Let's see now. That is at 60. Whoa. Is it at 60? So previously I only tested their fixed blades, so it's quite possible that for the pocket blades they give up a little bit of toughness in order to get better edge retention. I got to test the classic 110 now just to know. I have to know. I have to know this. This is my thing. I love knowing what my blade steel is or isn't. I'm not even sure. I knew you could get 60 HRC out of 420. Yeah, 60. Holy smokes. I did not, guys, I honestly did not know that their 420 pocket blades are that hardness level. I just didn't have a chance to test them. Hold on a second. Let me see what else I got in buck. I have to know this. Isn't that called Spitfire? That's 420, I know that. Let's go. Very, very interesting. All right, let's see now. Okay, well, this one is at 50, almost 59, 58.8, which is very respectable, but 60, whoa. All right, so back to the knives I'm supposed to be reviewing. Sorry, Buck, if I am letting you down with that. That is absolutely awesome for MagnaCut to be anywhere between 62.5 and 65 HRC is awesome. And the difference between like 63 and 65 is so minor, you will hardly notice it. You will notice it when you're sharpening. It'll be a little harder to sharpen, but then the burr will break off a little easier, if you know what I mean, at 64 and above. But at 63 and a half, like these knives are, 63 to 63 and a half, it will feel like sharpening a 420 blade. You know, it's not going to be any harder to do that. Very exciting.